Hi there, this is Ramona Shah. I'm a leadership coach and I help develop leaders people love to work for. But today I want to talk to you about being indistractable, specifically about a book by Nir Eyal. So this is a bit of a book summary and I want to share some of the key takeaways that I had from this book. The reason why is not because I get compensated. I do not, I'm not an affiliate in any way, but this book is key that it addresses a key topic and key challenge that comes up in many of my coaching conversations with clients who are all in leadership positions. Because when you're a manager or a leader, people ask for your attention. You need to give attention. You're going to be slacked, emailed, people will text you and call you. There's a lot of things on your plate, while at the same time, you're not only needing to give attention to your team members, but you're also supposed to work on strategic projects, really doing the deep thinking work in order to have the visibility that you need in order to move your team forward, in order to kind of act on the vision and on the strategy that's laid out for your team. But how do you do this in the midst of like putting out fires throughout the day and making sure everyone has the information they need and the resources they need in order to do their job, and then trying to respond to all the different requests that are coming in? So the book Indistractable addresses this. Now, one of the additional challenges is that about 70% of workers reported that they feel distracted while at work, and especially so in open offices. Now, the impact of this is that researchers have found that it takes about 25 minutes for someone to return to work when they've been interrupted, even if the interruption is only 2.8 seconds long. It can also cause people to make double the number of errors. This is to say it's going to impact your productivity and it's going to impact the quality of your work. This is why the book is so important. And this is also why a lot of people come to me, because they're aware of the issue. They're aware that they're less, that their work is impacted negatively and that they're less productive because of the constant distractions. Yet it is so difficult for many people to overcome this. Now, this book, it will provide some guidance, but it also really speaks to the underlying reasons of why we're tempted to be distracted. I wanted to bring up one additional study that I really thought was impactful here. There was a group of nurses at UCSF, the University of California in San Francisco, who noticed right away one of the key reasons of death in the US is due to wrong of medications that are giving out at hospitals and human errors, basically. And these nurses try to figure out why is it. And oftentimes it was that while they were giving out medication and they were putting them into the pills in the right, for the right people in the right spot, they were being distracted. So what they did is they put on a vest that indicated to everyone else that they cannot be distracted, that they have to focus. And errors in hospitals who tried this dropped by 88%, just by signaling to others, I can't be distracted, and therefore being more focused, which is a huge gain. And this is what happened in hospitals because they're tracking these errors. Yet in organizations, that's often not the case. We may not be able to track immediately what are the errors and what's this cost because of distractions and so forth. But there is no reason why what's happening at hospitals wouldn't equally also be happening in organizations in the workplace and in corporate America as well. So that just is a really good eye opener to me as well, and to I believe he makes a really good case here, Nir Eyal, about the impact of being distracted on organizations and people working in organizations. What being indistractable means, according to Nir Eyal, is that it means to be striving to do what you say you will do, versus planning on doing something and then getting distracted, right? However, you can't call something a distraction unless you know what it is distracting you from. So he's talking about this concept of there's traction moving towards something, and then there's distraction moving away from it. The only way that we can actually move from distraction into traction is by planning ahead. Okay? So planning ahead, being really intentional about our time and our focus and what we're doing. If I look at a calendar of one of my clients and there's nothing, it's like a blank, there's a few meetings, but nothing else in it. And I say, what are you going to do? And they say, well, I'll work down, I'll check my email, and then I keep checking my email, and then I do this task, and then, probably something is going to come up. That likely is not going to result in the most, in the highest productivity throughout the day, because they're leaving it up to however the day is going to unfold to do whatever is going to fit into then that situation or those circumstances, versus planning ahead exactly what you're going to do when. One of the things I talked about here on LinkedIn before is also the fact that oftentimes we're moving into distractions or into wasted time at the time frame that's wasted when we're returning from, let's say, a coffee break, we're sitting back down, we're checking emails, we're getting distracted, or we're coming back from a meeting, and when we don't know exactly what to do next, and we're just looking at our endless long to-do list, well, what should I be picking now? What should I do next? That is a waste of time. You want to make sure that you know exactly what's coming next, so that you're not spending this valuable time when you're back at your desk trying to figure out what to do, which will often then just lead to it being wasteful time. Either going through email or looking at long to-do lists, and then, well, time is over and it's time for the next meeting, and that was just a waste of 30 minutes. And the other important point here that's kind of at the core of this book is the fact that all motivation is essentially a desire to escape discomfort. Discomfort such as boredom, actually people are incredibly motivated to escape boredom, or negative feelings, right? So when we're, and I can totally relate, when I have to do some deep thinking and I have to work on a piece of content, or I develop a program and I have to really think, and there's a moment where like, oh, this is hard, this is challenging, this is hard, oh, let me just check this email, or let me just respond to this message. That is an escape from discomfort. And if it actually rewards my brain to say, oh, this was helpful, it was an escape from pain in that moment, then and it provided that relief, it is likely to turn into a bit of a habit, because the next time around I feel this discomfort, I will be very tempted to do it again, because my brain knows that last time I hopped over onto LinkedIn or Facebook or my email or Slack, that made me feel better in the moment. So let's try this again. That's what our brain is telling us. But instead, we want to get comfortable with the discomfort, at least for a little while, so that in the moment of pain, in the moment of discomfort, we're not just jumping to the next thing. In fact, one of the quotes that he has in the book is, time management is pain management, because exactly this concept that when we're getting distracted, it is actually because we're trying to escape a pain, a feeling of pain or boredom or any negative emotion. Now, something else that I found interesting is another takeaway here, and I'm going to move into a couple of suggestions that he's proposing in his book in a moment. But one of the things that he says too is this concept of willpower. When we think we've already exhausted our willpower and we just need to relax and binge watch Netflix and show on Netflix, or relax and do nothing because we've exhausted our willpower, that actually is not true. It's only holding true if you believe that your willpower is a finite resource. Research shows that people who don't believe that willpower is a finite resource and think it is something that they can generate, then they will actually not feel an exhaustion. They will not see a negative or a reduction in willpower throughout their day. So essentially, that means whatever you believe, is what's true to you. And if you can choose to believe that willpower is an infinite resource that you have, then it will be so. So this is just a little mindset shift that I find really intriguing and helpful here. But I did say I'm going to talk about what to do in this last couple of minutes. So one thing that he says in terms of like this discomfort, and to just live with the discomfort, is to delay the desire to move on to something else when we're feeling discomfort or pain by 10 minutes. Just to ride the wave and say, hey, listen, I feel this discomfort. I get it. I want to move on, but I'm going to just stick with it, stick with the task, stay in it for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, I'm okay. And it's fine for me to go and check email or Slack or do whatever else I need to do on social media or so forth. Just hang in there for 10 minutes. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is to time box your days. So decide how much time you're going to spend in the three main domains of your life, which is self, relationships, and then work. Look at your week and plan out, when are you going to take care of yourself, go to the gym, do things for yourself to rejuvenate? When are you going to spend time with your family or other people in terms of relationships, friends, and so forth? And then when are you going to work? And really block it into your week. And then within the day, of course, we also want to block out time, the time blocking method, to make sure that we're blocking out time when we're not being distracted and we can work on focused tasks. Another thing is really to be driven by your values. So what's really important to you, and to honor those values. That will make you stay more focused and be more indistractable throughout the week, and therefore more productive. If you've never thought about your values, then let's talk, because this is an important part of creating a life where you really feel like you're thriving and you're in the right place and you're doing the things that refuel and energize you throughout the day, the week, the years, and so forth. I talked about this briefly, this concept of the time blocking. This basically means you're blocking out time for focused work where you're not distracted, where you move somewhere else, you put in your headsets or something else where no one else can distract you. It also means to block out time when to check emails or Slack. Do that within the 30 minutes in the morning and the 30 minutes after lunch, and maybe the 30 minutes before you end the day, and then close it and go on to non-disturb in between. It's actually interesting that Slack has become such a quick communication channel for many organizations, where it's constantly on. When Slack, the organization who developed Slack, is actually really, really conscious about using Slack within certain timeframes and not beyond, and not having it on all day. They have an amazing culture that really fosters this idea of not being distracted and turning off any disturbances and notifications, including Slack itself. Also, signal when not being interrupted. The book here has this little red, let me see if I can find it, has this little red thing that you could print out if you were to get the book, and then put on top of your desk as like a signal, I can't be distracted. But there's many other methods you can do this, or just go to a space where you can't, in an office, in a meeting room, closed doors, or also at home with family. What is a sign that you can, that your kids or family members will know that you're currently doing focused work and cannot be distracted? Something visual. There's also a few quick fixes I want to say. Last, one is there's apps such as Pockets, which I love, that you can, if you come across content versus getting absorbed right away, you add it to Pocket and then you can read it later on. You have it saved. Obviously, turning off notifications. I'm always still surprised how many people keep notifications of emails and so forth on, and that just is a distractor. And it's a very quick solution to just turn those off, so that you can stay more focused on the work that you're currently doing. And then, of course, there's also apps that, such as, I think it's called the Newsfeed Burner or News Burner. We can turn off the newsfeed if you feel like you're in social media a little bit too much and get caught up in the news feeds. Another feature that I really like is to use the Not Disturb While Driving feature in iPhones. That will block out when people will try to text to you. They will actually send the text back and say, like, this person can't be reached. You can turn it on. You can then also customize the message that goes back to those people. And if they do text urgent, for example, they'll still get through. But it's an easy way to just kind of block out and remove any of those challenging moments when you're getting tempted. That's it for this book summary. I highly recommend it. I kept this short. I really wanted to get to the core of it quick. If you want to know more, then let's talk. Get the book itself, read it if you can. And I'll see you soon with another LinkedIn Live or another video on here. I'd love to connect and hear from you and hear your thoughts here too. If you have read the book, put a comment below on what was your key takeaway. And if you know someone who would benefit from hearing this and learning more about the book or the concept of being indistractable or time management, please share it along. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.